welcome to Booking the Wrestler Series 1. I'm not doing the editions now because I have a final edition of episode, well, it's part 8. I don't want to make any confusion, so it's a Series 1 now. This is about, it's not about this. The best name for this is the LAX Angle. I actually got that out pretty well. I didn't botch. We have, at this moment in story that I'm creating, a Tasha Steelz is in Impact Wrestling, a Mercedes Martinez, a Hernandez, a returning Diamante, and a returning Kiera Hogan. Now, this is the way it's going. Kiera Hogan comes back along with Diamante. Kiera Hogan has a feud with Tasha Steelz, of course. At this time, you do not have a Savannah Evans. She left. And their feud goes through, and Kiera Hogan beats her ass. And this is Tasha Steelz. She couldn't beat her. Now, here where it gets interesting. For Mercedes Martinez, she tries to go after the Impact title again for the knockouts. She fails against at this time, Deonna Purrazzo. She tries again 3 months later. She fails again against Deonna Purrazzo. Tries to beat her down, doesn't get anywhere. And then when Deonna loses her title to Mickie James, in story that I'm making, again she gets beat by Mickie James. Unlike Turning Point, where she did get beat, here she also gets beat. So she's frustrated beyond stink. Tasha Steelz is frustrated beyond stink. And at this point, Diamante has been dealing with Decay, with a Havoc, because she basically spilled something on Havoc and pissed her off because she was wearing a very nice dress. It was showing a lot of meat. And she got pissed off, messed up her dress by accident. She tried to apologize. Havoc didn't take it. And then they started having a feud. And she got her ass whooped. And then finally made the catalyst for all of this is Hernandaddy, who is working with, at this time, I'm actually considering making a story with Ziggy Dice and Johnny Swinger. I might do that next, I think. I don't know yet. But at this point, Hernandaddy has been fired from the Swingers Palace because it's now been reestablished. So not in Las Vegas anymore. It's now been reestablished. But he got fired due to the fact that people started stealing from Swingers Palace. Fallah Boss started stealing from Swingers Palace, and he was supposed to get the money back, and he could not do it. Then you got Chris Bay along with Hikuleo. Well, Hikuleo, not Hikuleo. Hikuleo, and he tried to get the money back from Chris Bay. He could not beat the Hikuleo from the Bullet Club. He couldn't get it done. Hell, when he tried to go up against Chris Bay, he couldn't get it done. So guess what? The Johnny Swinger said, Hernandaddy, I love you, but you can't get the damn job done anymore. So I'll have to get a new Hammernager to do the job. And he brings in W. Morrissey. And he's looking at him and say, this sucker can't do my job. I am the best. He says, really? You really going to say that with me? Who knows how to get the business done? I'm from New York. We know how to make sure no one steals from us. And then they have a match because to try and keep his job, he had to beat Morrissey. He got his ass wiped out. So, Diamante, Mercedes, Tasha, and Hernandez have gotten their butts kicked flat out, could not get the business done. And then one last person comes into the fray. Laredo Kid. Now, in actual storyline, he has been beaten by Trey and by Steve Macklin. Could not get it done. And he got another shot at X Division title. But really, Trey didn't even care about him because Macklin was at ringside and he wiped the floor with Laredo Kid. So he got his butt kicked. And all of them were walking around in the back angry, bumping into each other. And this is the Tasha Steelz bumping into Diamante. They didn't like each other when they knew each other years ago. They still don't like each other, and they were about to fight one another. And as they begin to argue, you got Mercedes Martinez talking on the phone, drinking some coffee. They knocked it out of her hand. She's ready to beat the shit out of both of them. And at this moment, Hernandez is looking at them. The Laredo Kid is sitting away from them, going like this. And all three of these women were about to throw down until Hernandez hears a voice in his head that is Conan. And it is in actual history that Conan was the boss of the Latin American Exchange. And he said, and this is just me, he says this: we Latinos must always work together. Everyone tries to break us apart. Everybody tries to control us. Everybody tries to bring us down. But we of the Latin American Exchange always rise because we are Latinos, the best of the best. And no one can outperform us. No one can outdo us. We are LAX. And he hears this in the back of his head, which we hear. And he goes up to all three of these women. He says, stop. Stop it. Mamacita, stop it. Stop it. He says, oh, mamacitas. Mama, stop. All of you are sisters. I'm your brother. And they say, what the hell are you talking about? You ain't born for me. And he says, yes, I am. I am a Mexicano. Diamante. What are you? Dominican. Yeah. And both of you, what are you? Balicua. You are Spanish. You are Latinos. We are Latin. What is going on here? We've been getting our asses kicked by everyone because we're always having an attitude. We never, and Conan always taught me this. You must show aggression, but focused aggression. I never understood that with Conan. Never. When I was working with Homicide. Never understood that. Never could take advantage of it until Conan always kept us focused and say, listen, you have a hot streak in you. Focus the hot streak. Focus on just one thing. Don't worry about everybody else. Focus on one thing and it gets done. And then he looks at Dorado Kid and he says, come here, my brother. Come, come. And he sits them all down and he's talking to them. And this is, Hernandez does not do this. And everyone knows Hernandez does not do this. He doesn't know how to do this, but he finally gets it. He finally understands what Conan had been telling him for years under the Latin American Exchange, when he was always the most hot-headed of everyone, hotter than Kingston, hotter than Santana Ortiz, hotter than Homicide. Every single time, he never gets it. This time he does, because he is a veteran of over 20 years. He finally gets it. And he finally is focused enough to teach what Conan had been trying to ram into his head for years. And for weeks after that, nearly a month and a half, he's talking to them in the back. And everyone is looking at them laughing, saying, look at the losers. That's catering. They're laughing. And Mercedes saying, and started saying something in Spanish. And he grabs her and says, focused anger. Sit, mamacita. Mama, sit. You're the mama of LAX. And she says, what? Latin American Exchange is here. It's now. We five are the Latin American Exchange. We five are the true Latin American Exchange. All the other times was not as important as now. Got 3 Latinas in front of me. Each one of them can do and be anything. You two, Diamante, Tasha, can be tag champs. You, mama, you big mama, you can be Knockouts champ. You two can be Knockouts tag champs. And this is where it gets interesting. And he says this. You can interchange anytime, because any one of you can be champions. Darlero, you can be X Division champ anytime you want. You can. Or we can be tag champs anytime we want. But it's about us up here. Not always showing the fire of being a Latin American, being Latino and Latina. It is about us being pro wrestlers and being what we are. We are the best pro wrestlers that are the best Latino and Latinas that exist. There's no one better than us. There's no one even comes close to us. We're here now. Let's show them true, focused aggression. Nothing else matters. And after that, it took about a month and a half to get it through their heads. Because everyone that was in the back, all the heels, were messing with them. It wasn't the faces, it was all the heels that was messing with them. They kept screwing with them, saying they're nothing. Look at the losers at catering. It kind of reminds you of a company, doesn't it? And they were messing with them every week of Impact Wrestling television. Even when they had an Impact Plus show of Genesis, they didn't interact, and they were harassed again about being in catering. In this story, in this situation, we take catering from WWE and actually use it constructively. Showing them in catering, showing them talking and planning, not eating, unlike everybody else who was messing with them, who came over and just to play with them, threw some food on them, and just said, how does it feel to be like them? So after a month and a half, he decided to take them off the chain. He managed to convince them all to work together as one unit. And when they redid Impact Wrestling for the new year, because this was in 2021, this is now 2022, and it was about a month and a half afterward. Genesis happened at the beginning of the year. Now this is now February into almost March, a month and a half. He let them off the chain. Laredo Kid normally is a face, but he didn't want to hear it anymore. He was done. He attacked Maclin in a way you wouldn't expect him to attack him. He went at him, and then he took a chair. He didn't hit him with it. He sat down right next to him after he did a gunshot drop kick to the back of his head. Not his back, not his neck, his head. He whacked into the mat after he finished his match because he jumped onto the top turnbuckle after he was dealing with Trey, and he gunshotted him here. Now, in real life, that's dangerous. There's never hope that no one does that by accident. But in story, he's all right. He didn't get it bad. It just looked like he got it. But they'll say in commentary, he took a gunshot drop kick to the head, and he was laid out. Trey, who couldn't believe what he saw, he said, "What are you doing? You could have really messed him up." And he'd already sat down, like I said, in a chair facing Maclin. He looked up at him. He stood up. And he said, "Mine." He's pointing at the title he's holding in his hand. Because at that time, Maclin did get beat at the end of the match. And he did beat him down a little bit. But that's when Laredo Kid gave him the gunshot to the back of the head. He said, "Mine." He said, "What are you talking about?" And he grabbed a chair, sat it right in front of him, sat down. "Mine." Threw the chair back and walked out of the ring. Then, when it came to Deonna Purrazzo trying to get back her title from Mickie Jane at this time, you got Mercedes, Double M, coming out. She walked to the ring with Tasha and Diamante by her side. And they're standing there. And both Deonna as well as Mickie, who had just finished up fighting, they're looking at them both. Both of them are looking at them. And they're saying, "Oh, you're going to try something? Come on." And Mercedes walks to the ring alone. She has both of them standing there, waiting. She gets into the ring with a mic. And she says, 100%, "You first, and then you, mamacita." If I'm saying it right. You first, then you. You're going to end. He said, "Then try and bring it now." You first, then you end. She walks out of the ring with them. Now, when it came to Tasha and Diamante, it was different. When they came out, they attacked Decay because currently Havoc and Rosemary have the titles. They were actually trying to go against, well, at this time, they already regained the titles from the Inspiration. The Inspiration was trying to get it back, but they got beat. And then Kimberly and Brandy, Renee, I believe her name is Renee, I forgot her name. But Brandy, her partner, the Undead Brides, was that match at the time. They went into the ring as they were having the match. They attacked them both. And at that time, in the ring was Kimberly and Rosemary. When Havoc came out, you had pretty much not only Hernandez come out, not only Dorado Kid come out, but also Mercedes come out, and they knocked out all of them together. At this time, as you know, women and males are currently doing mixed matches. So they laid them all out. All of them got laid out. Hernandez gets a mic, and he says, see this? This mine. This mine. This mine. Nobody has this. This is not Conan. This is not Santana Ortiz. This is not Homicide. This is mine. They are Latin American Exchange. We're coming to take what is ours. And like before, you see this now, this attack, the only one you're ever going to see. Because we're going to show everybody that we are the best pro wrestlers. This, I want to make an example of them because they're a joke. Face paint, it's a joke. We're here to rule. Really rule. And they leave. And from there, they go for the tag division. They destroy Rosemary and Havoc. Now, that's kind of hard to believe that Diamante and Tasha Steelz could take on Havoc. But it was different. You see, when it came to Havoc and to Rosemary, they were just using their regular moves. When it comes to Diamante and Tasha, they asked for an MMA wrestler, well, MMA fighter, who is a former amateur wrestler, a male amateur wrestler, who's also Latino. I can't really say who would be the best one. Maybe from UFC. But he comes in, and they show them training. Literally training and learning how to do MMA. And in this situation, Diamante and Tasha use MMA more than they use regular pro wrestling moves. And literally wiped the floor with them. Done. They went through everyone that was there. They went for the Inspiration. They went through Rosemary and Havoc are the champs at this moment. But you got Inspiration there. You basically had Alicia Edwards and I don't want to really put her in here, but I have to put in Kiera Hogan because they don't have that many women. So they're wiped out. When it came to Rachel Ellering and the Jordan Grace, they get wiped out. Another female tag team, which would be with Ember Moon and the Jade. Mia Yim, she comes back at that time. She gets wiped out. And the only ones left is Rosemary and Havoc. And they wiped the floor with them. And they are the first to get the titles. They are first to get any titles from the Latin American Exchange. Then you look at Dorado Kid, who at that time had to go through not only Raju, Raj Singh, he had to go through, at this time, P.D. Williams. He had gone through the Chris Bay. He had gone through the Macklin, because at that time as well, he also learned MMA moves that gave him the edge, and eventually he was facing Trey, and he beat him. He beat Trey, ended him. And at this moment, at this time, the tag belts and the main title are still available. Now, many people thought that Hernandez was going to go after the tag belt. No. He decided he wanted the world title. He wanted it. but he also wanted the tag titles. Now, he knew that he was not strong enough to beat, at this time, W. Morrissey. It's not Moose. It's Morrissey who's champ. He stopped working at the Swingers Palace. Swinger was screwed. He didn't have no muscle anymore. He had to beg Fallah Bahh to do it. But Morrissey is champ. And since he got his ass whooped by Morrissey, he decided he wanted to go in a different direction. He went to Tommy Dreamer. He went to him and said, Tommy, I know you a long time. You know me. I need your help. He said, what do you want? I want you to help me to become extreme. I want you to help me become hardcore. I want you to help me to become ECW. True, dangerous ECW. One that is not just ordinary, but extremely violent. And he says, you really want it? Come to House of Hardcore and I'll train you. Because at that time, he does have his House of Hardcore while he's working at Impact Wrestling. At this point, he has returned from his suspension, as you already know. From he being actually suspended because of what happened trying to make the documentary work. So he goes to the House of Hardcore, and for a month they show him training, fighting other wrestlers in the heavy hardcore style. And his entire style does change. He doesn't even show his regular mannerisms showing, yeah. No. He's totally focused and controlled. Think about a Jake the Snake Roberts type of attitude back when he was young. Methodical, controlled. He's showing no attitude like he's from the streets. He's showing that he means business. And he does do it. He does mean business. He does mean total business. And after 2 months of training, he gets his shot against Morrissey at Slammiversary. Actually, Bound for Glory. Because this is a big stretch, getting everyone the titles. Let's say Bound for Glory. And he does win his title. Now, strangely enough, Konnan and Santana Ortiz return to Impact Wrestling. And when they go, they notice the new LAX. They notice Hernandez's group. And Konnan, Big Dog, doesn't interfere with it. He comes to him, and this is before his match with Morrissey. He says, Hernandez, done good, brother. I'm proud of you. You finally learned what I taught you. I knew you would get it. I knew one day. And he looked at Konnan. He walked up to him and hugged him and said, thank you. I love you. Doesn't say anything else. And he walks away because he was about to get his match on. And he does win. And when he won the world title, the next night on Impact, Hernandez and all of the new Latin American Exchange is there. And then Santana Ortiz, along with Konnan, joined them. And they thought they're allowed to join. And everyone is looking at them like, what? What the hell is this? No one said you can join us, Poppy. I believe that's what he said, Poppy. No one joins. You can't do that. And that's what Konnan says. I started the Latin American Exchange. And he said, yeah, you did. You did start it. And this is Hernandez. And I love you. I love you. You're a father. I love you. You're the one who helped me to learn. But you're not joining this one. You're not going to be in command of this one. This belongs to me now. This belongs to me. Please go. Start your own. Latin American East sounds good than the Latin American Exchange. So he gets angry. He says, no, you owe me. We're not going to be called Latin American East. We're not doing it. You will stand down as the leader. And they were ready to fight. And Hernandez said, no, we don't fight family. He said, you know what? Okay. Know what we'll do? Because I love you and I owe you, we will be called Latin American East. And they got mad. He said, stop. We don't change. The name doesn't mean as strong as who we are. We are Latinos. We don't attack each other. We don't cause a war. No. We'll be called Latin American East. We'll be called LAX East. We'll back you up if you need us. But I'm staying the leader. Take over. Take the name. I love you and I respect you. And that's when they broke apart. Now, at that point, Black Tyrus joins Latin American Exchange. Also, Rocky Romero, I believe his name is Romero, he joins Latin American Exchange. He joins it. And Thunder Rosa joins the Latin American Exchange because at this point she switched from AEW to Impact Wrestling. Now, at this point, the Latin American Exchange is doing really good business. They are growing, but they have a big problem because LAS East has all the general titles. The World title, the Knockouts title, and the Knockouts tag titles, and the X Division title. And they want them. Konnan goes to Hernandez and says, you know, some of my people want a shot at your titles. We want them. He said, all right, we give you a shot at them. And at that point, Santana Ortiz had gotten the Impact tag titles. Hernandez had no problem not bothering them. When it came to Daga, I believe he's the one that joined them. I believe I said Daga. Daga, at that point, tried to get the X Division from Laredo Kid. Does not happen. Doesn't happen. And when it came to Thunder Rosa, she tried to take it from Mercedes. She did manage to get it from Mercedes, but then lost it again 2 weeks later because of a stipulation match that not Mercedes wanted, but Thunder Rosa wanted. So she got it back. So at this point, Thunder Rosa was getting really angry that she managed to get it back, and she attacks Mercedes. And Mercedes is ready to beat the crap out of her, and it's Hernandez said, no, we don't fight family. Stop. You had your match with her. Leave it. And Thunder Rosa doesn't care. She doesn't care. Only thing she wants is the damn title again. And she's demanding a fight. And since she couldn't get it from Mercedes, she now goes with a partner, Selena Deeps, who's also in Impact Wrestling, who now is going to challenge a Diamante and Tasha Steelz for their title. So at this point, it's getting really bad that members of LAX are trying to get titles from LAX East. Hernandez is doing his best not to start anything. But it's becoming obvious that when it came to K-Dog, he's trying his best to start undermining Hernandez's work because even though Tasha as well as Diamante, they do manage to lose their titles, you got K-Dog, Konnan telling them, you see who you're with? You got the wrong horse. Join me. He's trying to convince them. When it came to the Laredo Kid, he got his ass beaten up by Daga. And it was also not that he lost the title. Santana Ortiz also beat up on him. And by that point, Trey managed to beat him and get the title back. They didn't win it, but they messed with them. And the only one that has the title left, next to Mercedes, is Hernandez. And he realizes this is getting bad, that they're ready to fight. And Mercedes, at that point, got so pissed because Diamante got attacked again by Thunder Rosa, and she gets hurt and she's out. So Mercedes was willing to break the leg of a Thunder Rosa, and she gets suspended, and then she got her title stripped. So at this point, it has reached the point that Hernandez decides, I'm done. I'm done. He relinquishes the title. he lets it go. He relinquishes it. He doesn't want to deal with it anymore because the person that he loved is actually destroyed the group that he created. And he goes away for about 2 months. Mercedes comes back. Her suspension's lifted. Diamante comes back 2 months later. Everybody's working by themselves again. And Hernandez is broken up because he can't believe that Konnan would literally screw up everything that he worked so hard to make. And it was one person that helped him to understand, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? And guess who it is? It's not Homicide. Eddie Kingston, who he had a feud with years ago as the original G's. I believe that was what called. The OGs. There you go. I almost forgot. He shows up on Impact, but as a cameo. And he says, "How you doing, partner?" He said, "You working here now?" He said, "No, I'm working at Impact. I came to visit a friend of mine." But he sits down and he says, "What the hell are you doing? You had the most dominant group that existed. You had the most dominant group that has ever been seen, that are Latinos in years. What the hell did you do?" He says, "Latinos don't hurt one another." He said, "What are you talking about? We beat on each other all the time." He says, "I don't want that. That's what we always do, and we always lose. We always lose. I want something better." And he looked at him and said, "Listen to me. I see what you're doing. You want to bring us together as one people. It's beautiful. I love it, man. Me and you, we've always had our problems. We fought one another, but we always came back together. Right now, as it stands, you got nothing. Because Konnan wanted clout again. He saw how successful you were after he taught you, and me. He's like a father to us, and I can understand why you did that, and why you're not wanting to fight. And he taught us a lot of stuff, but he also taught us one thing, that you can't always trust family, because we have a tendency to turn on one another. And that's what he's done. He turned on you. He turned on you. Now it's time to go back. It's time to turn it right. Look, don't want to hurt our father. He took care of us when we were coming up in the business. He's been a father to us like a real father. And I know you don't want to hurt him, but it's time to do it right. If you don't want to hurt him or anybody else, don't. Show them why your group was the best. Beat them in the squared circle." And a light went off in his head and said, "I see you getting it, partner. You got it. Get your group back. Get everything back. You'll be free. And even if he comes back after you again, that means he's not family. If you go and get the titles clean and you don't hurt none of them, that shows you good. And they're not. That means they're not family. That means if you destroy them, then it's all right. And this is what Hernandez says. Because you tried your best not to hurt family. Exactly. Like Konnan even taught us. If family comes at you, you turn the other cheek, you treat them right, and they still do that, then they're not family anymore. They just like everybody else. And then 1 week later, he calls everybody back together, and he said, "I'm sorry. I wanted to try and make this right. I wanted us all to be family. The Latin American exchange was all for Latinos and Latinas. I'm sorry. But now, they're not family. But we got to show them how good we are. As I told you from the beginning, we are the best pro wrestlers there is. So, we're going to get every title back." And that's what they do over a 4-month period. Mercedes Martinez gets her title back from Selena Deeps. The tag titles are gotten back from Inspiration, from Diamante, for Diamante and Tasha Steelz. The Laredo Kid gets the X Division title back. He does. For Hernandez, he wasn't interested in the world title because he knew that's not where it really means anything. what really means something is the tag titles, because Konnan is totally focused on making sure that Hernandez doesn't get the world title, but his major focus that he cares about more than anything is Santana Ortiz. Yes, he thinks that Hernandez is going to go after the main title again. No, he doesn't. He's not going after the main title again. He's going after the tag titles, and he calls in Homicide to help him. And he comes in to his Latin American exchange, and he tells Homicide, it's time. We need to get our titles back. But this time, it's not because I want to beat the crap out of everybody. I want to get something back because I want to go full circle with you, because this is where it started. We had nothing until K-Dog helped us. And now, I want to get it back. This is it. So, at Bound for Glory 2022, they get their shot to get the titles back from, yes, Ortiz and Santana. And they do get it. And when it came to Hernandez, when it was done, and he was still the manager and the runner of Latin American Exchange, he told clearly K-Dog, because all the groups are together, Latin American Hernandez, Latin American Konnan, and he told them all ahead of time, and this is his group, he said, I want to show them how damn good we are. I know you worked so hard to get those titles. I want you to relinquish them all. He said, what? Why? Because I want to show them how great we are. Because every last one of you, you got those damn titles easy. They got to struggle. We're going to tell Scott D'Amore that we're relinquishing them on the show, and we're walking away. Because we know that we can beat anybody. He said, why are we doing that? Why won't we relinquish the titles? Because I'm going to tell them a stipulation match. Because on that day, if they don't agree, they're not going to get those titles, because we'll relinquish them back to everybody else. But if we get what we want, we're going to have it. So when they got into the ring and Scott was there, and he said the stipulation that he wanted a tag, he wanted a 10, well, what was it? There's like 5 people there and 5 people there. A match that was for everyone. And if they won their match, the Latin American Exchange under Konnan would cease to exist and it would only be Hernandez. That's what he wanted. Hernandez wanted to take the name away from Konnan permanently. That's the reason why if they lose, because they're willing to relinquish the titles over to Scott. Because the way it goes, by giving the titles to Scott, they're making it very clear that they're willing to give up everything for the name Latin American Exchange. Because he knows they can get them back. So, Hernandez was one to do it. Konnan was more than happy to do it because he felt none of his people, and there would be another Spanish female wrestler working there. Because now there'll be 3 women. There would be a huge tag match. And Hernandez's group wins. And now wins the title of the true Latin American Exchange. And every one of Konnan's people have to disband. This is my story. It does sound a little convoluted, because it's kind of hard to book something like that. But I do hope you enjoy this. Booking the wrestler, Impact, well, I don't really want to call it edition, but it is going to be, I kind of do want to call it the edition, but I'm not going to. This is Booking the Wrestler, Impact Series 1. I hope you enjoy it. Have a good day. Have a good night. Peace.